There's a quiet moment, barely noticed, where every conversation can either open a door or close a heart. It's the moment right after something goes wrong. And in that breath, you have a choice. Will you correct or connect? Most of us, without meaning to, lean toward correction. We highlight what failed. We list what could have been better. And even if we say it calmly, the energy still feels the same. You messed up. I see it. Let me fix you. But here's the problem. People don't respond well to being fixed. Not because they're fragile, but because they're human. Because being corrected without collaboration makes us feel small, alone, judged. And that feeling kills creativity. It silences openness. It shuts down the very growth you're trying to inspire. So what if I told you there's a single shift that changes everything? Instead of saying, "Here's what went wrong," try asking, "What can we adjust together?" That phrase, so simple, so soft, says so much more than its words. It says, "We're in this together." It says, "I trust your intelligence." It says, "This isn't about blame, it's about building." And in that moment, something shifts. The tension dissolves. The defenses lower. The person in front of you feels safe again, not just to improve, but to be honest about what happened. Because now it's not about shame. It's about stewardship. It's about tending to something broken together as partners, not opponents. And maybe no one told you this before, but leadership is not about catching people in their weakness. It's about helping them rise inside their strength. There's a reason why people remember how you spoke to them in moments of failure. Because when someone's vulnerable, raw, exposed, maybe even ashamed, that's when your words carry the most weight. You don't need to raise your voice to wound someone. You only need to speak without care. But the opposite is also true. You don't need a brilliant speech to lift someone. You just need to choose your language with love. When you say, "What can we adjust together?" you're doing something sacred. You're taking the focus off the problem and placing it on possibility. You're shifting the story from fault to future. And isn't that what most people long for? Not to be reminded of where they fell, but to be invited into a new way of standing. And let's be honest, this shift isn't just for the other person, it's for you. Because when you stop criticizing and start collaborating, you move from control to connection. You remind yourself, "I'm not here to dominate. I'm here to develop. I'm not here to instruct. I'm here to inspire." That's real leadership. And you don't have to be in charge of a team to practice it. You can do it with a friend who missed your boundary, with a partner who let you down, with a child who didn't follow through, with yourself after a moment you regret. Instead of saying, "Here's what I did wrong," ask, "What part of me needs more care, more structure, more grace?" That's how you grow without crushing your own spirit. Because the soul doesn't respond well to shame. It blooms in safety, in love, in shared responsibility. So if you want someone to change, start by showing them that their worth is not on trial. Start by saying, let's adjust, let's rework, let's evolve together. I've watched entire relationships shift, not through grand gestures, but through one sentence said differently. Because people aren't just listening to your words, they're feeling your energy. They're asking silently, "Am I safe with you? Will you hold my effort with respect even when it falls short?" And your response to failure answers that question more clearly than any compliment ever could. When you say, "What can we adjust together?" you're not minimizing the problem, you're humanizing the process. You're saying, "You're not a mistake because you made one. You're still worthy of partnership. We are not enemies, we are co-authors in this moment." And do you know what that creates? Loyalty, openness, momentum. Because when people feel respected in failure, they become bolder in their growth. They take ownership not out of fear, but out of honor. I've seen this with leaders who changed a single habit of speech and watched their teams come alive. I've seen it in marriages where one partner stopped saying, "You always do this," and started asking, "What's something we can try differently together?" Suddenly, the atmosphere softened. Defensiveness faded. Collaboration was born, not from pressure, but from presence. And maybe that's what the world needs now. Not more authority, but more attunement. Not more correction, but more curiosity. It takes humility to speak that way. It takes wisdom to choose unity over ego. But if you do, it will show. In the eyes of those around you. In the trust that slowly returns. In the way people begin to relax and bring their full selves to the table. Not because they stopped failing, but because you stopped using failure as a wall between you. So from this day forward, let your language reflect the kind of world you want to build. Not a world of perfection, but a world of repair. Not a world of blame, but a world of brave collaboration. You'll still need to speak truth. You'll still have to address what's not working. But how you say it, that is where your power lives. Instead of "you failed to meet expectations," try "let's look together at where the gap happened and how we can close it." Instead of "that was a mistake," try "I see a chance here to improve something valuable. Shall we explore it together?" The difference is not subtle. The difference is safety. And where there is safety, there is honesty. Where there is honesty, there is transformation. Where there is transformation, there is progress, slow, steady, human. You don't need to soften the truth. You need to speak it with dignity. You don't need to avoid the hard conversation. You need to invite the other person into it as a co-creator, not as a defendant. That is how you become someone who uplifts, even in correction. Someone who leads, even in quiet. Someone who inspires, without ever having to raise your voice. Because in the end, it's not what went wrong that defines the relationship. It's how you handled the moment it did. So choose grace over blame. Choose the question over the accusation. Choose to say, what can we adjust together? Because those 7 words, when said with sincerity, can rebuild trust, restore confidence, and awaken a spirit of collaboration that lasts far beyond the moment. And in doing so, you'll no longer just be correcting mistakes. You'll be creating leaders.